There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being constantly misunderstood. It's not the tiredness of working too hard or sleeping too little. It's the fatigue of explaining yourself over and over, only to realize your words landed somewhere else entirely. Of watching people form conclusions about who you are based on fragments, on assumptions, on the version of you they need you to be, rather than the person you actually are. It's quiet, this exhaustion. It doesn't announce itself. You can be surrounded by conversation and still feel like you're speaking a language no one else hears. And over time, something shifts inside you. Not all at once, but slowly. You start to wonder if maybe the problem is you. If maybe you're just too complicated, too nuanced, too much of something the world doesn't have patience for. People often think that those who feel chronically misunderstood are dramatic, attention-seeking, or overly sensitive, but that's rarely the truth. More often, they're simply people whose inner world doesn't match their outer expression. People whose thoughts move faster than their words. People whose feelings run deeper than small talk can hold. They're not trying to be difficult. They're just trying to be honest in a world that often prefers simplicity over truth. Psychologically, being misunderstood creates a unique form of cognitive dissonance. Your brain holds two conflicting realities: the one where you know who you are, what you meant, what you feel, and the one where everyone else seems to see something different. This creates a split, a fracture between your inner self and your perceived self. And that fracture over time becomes exhausting to maintain. Because here's what happens. You start pre-explaining yourself. Before you even share an opinion, you're already crafting disclaimers, softening your edges, adding context upon context just to avoid being misinterpreted again. You become hyper-aware of how your words might land, how your tone might be read, how your silence might be judged. And eventually, you realize you're spending more energy managing perception than actually expressing truth. This is what psychologists call impression management fatigue. It's when the gap between who you are and who people think you are becomes so wide that bridging it feels like a full-time job. You're not living. You're performing. And the performance is exhausting because it never quite works. No matter how carefully you explain, someone still gets it wrong. The truth is, most people don't misunderstand you because they're cruel. They misunderstand you because they're listening through their own lens, their own experiences, their own wounds. When you speak, they're not just hearing your words, they're filtering them through everything they've ever known. And sometimes, your truth simply doesn't fit their framework. But knowing this doesn't make it hurt less. Because when someone misunderstands your intentions, it feels like being erased. Like the real you, the one who carefully chose those words, who genuinely meant that gesture, who truly felt that emotion, doesn't exist to them. They've replaced you with their interpretation, and you're left standing there, invisible, holding a truth no one seems to want. There's a specific moment that happens repeatedly to people who feel chronically misunderstood. It's when they finally gather the courage to be vulnerable, to share something real, something important, and the response they get is so far from what they meant that they physically feel it. A tightening in the chest, a sinking feeling, a quiet voice that whispers, "Why do I even try?" And after enough of these moments, something changes. You stop trying. Not dramatically, not angrily. You just gradually retreat. You start keeping things to yourself. You laugh when you're supposed to, nod when it's expected, and save your real thoughts for the privacy of your own mind. Because at least there, you can't be misinterpreted. But here's what's fascinating. The human brain needs to be understood. It's not a luxury. It's a fundamental psychological need, right alongside food, safety, and belonging. Studies show that when people feel understood, their stress hormones decrease. their heart rate stabilizes, their nervous system relaxes. Understanding is a biological signal that you are safe, that you belong, that your existence makes sense to someone else. Without it, your brain starts operating in a state of chronic low-level threat. Not danger exactly, but unsafety. And that unsafety shapes everything. How you speak, how you trust, how you show up in the world. You become careful, guarded, always ready for the next misinterpretation. What many people don't realize is that being misunderstood doesn't just affect your relationships. It affects your sense of self. Because we don't form our identity in isolation. We form it through reflection, through how others see us, respond to us, understand us. And when those reflections are consistently distorted, you start to question your own clarity. You think, maybe I'm not explaining this well enough. Maybe I'm the one who's confused. Maybe the version of me in my head isn't as real as I think it is. And slowly, you begin to doubt your own perception, your own truth, your own right to be complex. There's a particular loneliness that comes with this. It's not the loneliness of being alone, it's the loneliness of being with people and still feeling unknown, of sharing your life but not your truth, of having conversations that touch the surface but never reach the depth where you actually live. And the paradox is, the more misunderstood you feel, the harder it becomes to explain yourself. Because you're no longer just sharing a thought or a feeling, you're carrying years of accumulated misinterpretation. Every new conversation is weighted with the ghost of every past one that went wrong. You're not just trying to be understood now, you're trying to undo every misconception that came before. But here's what's important to understand. Being chronically misunderstood often means you're living at a depth most people don't reach in casual interaction. You're thinking in layers, you're feeling in nuance. You're aware of complexity that others might not even notice. And that's not a flaw. That's depth. The problem isn't that you're too complicated. It's that depth requires time, patience, and genuine curiosity to understand. And in a world that moves fast, that values quick judgments and easy categories, depth often gets misread as confusion, intensity as drama, nuance as contradiction. So you learn to translate yourself. You learn to take your complex thoughts and compress them into simple statements. You learn to feel deeply but speak lightly. You learn to be who you are in private and who people need you to be in public. And you tell yourself, this is just how it is. This is just what it means to be different. But the cost of constant translation is high, because you're not just adapting, you're diminishing. Every time you shrink your truth to fit someone else's understanding, a small part of you becomes invisible, even to yourself. And over time, you might forget that the full version of you even exists. Yet something beautiful can emerge from being misunderstood, if you let it. Because when the world doesn't understand you, you're forced to understand yourself more deeply. You spend time in your own thoughts, you examine your intentions, you clarify your values, and through that process, you develop a kind of self-knowledge that many people never reach. You learn to trust your own perception, even when no one else sees what you see. You learn to validate your own experience, even when others dismiss it. And you learn that being understood by the right people matters more than being understood by everyone. Because here's a truth worth holding. Not everyone will understand you. And that's okay. You don't need universal understanding. You just need a few people who are willing to listen past their assumptions, who are curious enough to ask questions, who care enough to sit with complexity instead of rushing to conclusions. Those people exist. They're the ones who say, "Tell me more about that," instead of, "I know what you mean." They're the ones who hold space for contradiction, who don't need you to be simple, who can handle the fullness of who you are without trying to edit you down. And when you find them,
something shifts. You realize that being misunderstood wasn't about you being wrong. It was about being with people who weren't ready or willing to understand. Not because they're bad people, but because understanding requires effort, empathy, and the willingness to see beyond your own perspective. So, if you're someone who feels chronically misunderstood, please know this. Your complexity is not a burden. Your depth is not too much. Your truth is not unclear just because others can't hear it yet. You're not broken. You're just waiting for resonance. And until you find it, be patient with yourself. Stop trying to shrink. Stop over-explaining. Stop apologizing for being more than what fits in a single conversation. Instead, honor your own understanding of yourself.
Trust your own interpretation of your intentions. And remember that being misunderstood by many doesn't make you any less real. Because one day, you'll meet someone who gets it, who hears not just your words, but the meaning beneath them, who sees not just your actions, but the heart behind them. And in that moment, you'll realize that all those years of being misunderstood were teaching you to recognize true understanding when it finally arrived. You'll stop seeking to be understood by everyone and start cherishing being understood by someone. And that someone will look at you and say, "I see you. I really see you." And you'll know without question that they do. Until then, carry yourself gently. Speak your truth, even if it's only to yourself. And remember that being misunderstood doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means you're living at a frequency others haven't tuned into yet. And maybe that's not a problem to fix. Maybe that's just a reality to accept while you wait for those rare, beautiful moments when someone finally hears the song you've been singing all along. Because you deserve to be understood. Not translated, not simplified, not explained away. Just understood exactly as you are, in all your complicated, nuanced, beautiful complexity. And when that happens, you'll finally understand why you had to wait so long. Because shallow understanding was never going to be enough for someone like you. You needed the kind that sees all the way through. And that kind of understanding, it's worth every misinterpreted moment that came before.